we're getting into heaven and we're going to be a part of the kingdom. You know what I mean? And we can't even love our own spouses. I mean, I started thinking about that. I'm like reading Jesus, love your enemies and pray for those that persecute you. When he says that, it's not that part, because everything else in the Sermon on the Mount is difficult too. But when he says that, and then he says, and if you don't, you will not be called sons and daughters of the living God, basically. You won't become sons of my Father. That's heavy. So forget about your enemies. We're not even doing the part that he says is what everybody does. Even the heathen love their own. You know what I'm saying? So I just said, Father, give me the ability to love like you love. You know one thing that I found that's kind of, it helps the process? When you can see people like children. When you can look at people like children. You know, we were at a Synergy of the Generations conference recently, and there were all these people that were in their 80s there, and they were giving testimonies about how they feel lonely and they want people to be around them. And it's like, and they kept saying, young people, we want you to come over to our house. We want you to spend time with us. We want to hang out with you. We want to learn about your music and your stuff and what you do. And one of our guys, Micah, that plays with us, that has both of his grandparents are living on both sides, and they're in their 80s. And in fact, that week, his grandfather, that's 81, had given him a 70-some-odd-year-old banjo guitar that his grandfather had played when he was a kid. And he got up and he said, you know, some of us younger ones forget that somebody that's 80 still inside feels like somebody that's 16. They still hurt, and they still have pain, and they still agonize, and they still have the fear of man that grips them. And so I just want us to sing this. These words just say, I'm learning. Let's just slow it down just a little bit. It says, I am learning to be a father, but I really don't know how. But I really don't know how to be willing to care for others more than I love myself. More than I love myself. 'Cause it ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy learning to love like you. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy learning to love like you. Like 200 years ago, this guy named Kierkegaard, who a lot of the Western secular humanists kind of ripped his stuff off and made him anti-church, but reality, if you study him, he was actually pro-reform of the church to the ways and teachings of Jesus. 200 years ago, he was trying to reform the church and the Lutheran church, and he began to say this. He said, when Jesus walked the face of the earth, this was 200 years ago, he said, it seems like it was a very difficult thing to become a Christian. He said, and it was a very easy thing to understand it. And he said, this is 200 years ago, he said, but now it seems like we have the opposite. Now we've made it an easy thing to become a Christian and a difficult thing to understand it. And then he said this, he said, is it possible that by the help of Christianity we have Christians that have not yet become Christians? And when I read that, I said, God, it ain't easy. I started reading this whole last year. I read the Bible because I've always loved to read the Bible, but this last year, especially I love the Old Testament. That's why I kind of tend to be really like, you know what I mean? I love that kind of stuff in my life. But this year I've been reading a lot of just the Sermon on the Mount. I've just been on it over and over and over again. And I've been, it's like people sometimes say, Jason, are you against the church? They'll ask me, are you against the church? I'm like, I don't have time to be against the church. I'm too busy being against myself. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, do you have time to be against anybody? I don't even have time for it. It's like, I'm just so cotton picking messed up. You know what I mean? So, not really. Yeah, really. I am. So, listen to this. It just says, I am learning to love my neighbor. This is an easy one. And to live by the golden rule. But it's so hard when I've been lied to. This is what happens to you. You feel like a fool for giving a fool. 'Cause it ain't easy. 'Cause it ain't easy. That's right. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. Learning to love like you. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. Yeah. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. Learning to love like you. And I am learning to be faithful. With the little that I have, to do like Jesus and turn the tables. This is how we really turn the tables. To give it all, to get nothing back. See, 'cause it ain't easy. That's right. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. Learning to love like you. It ain't easy. 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 Learning to love like you. Teach us over, teach us over.